Right. Let's do. Oh, I see that. Let's do travel serial killer tours worst nightmare.
Tourists from hell. We know the type. The girl who gets drunk and then throws up on an ancient monument. The guy who screams in English and speaks English to a local who doesn't speak the language. And any and all bachelor and bachelorette parties that go wrong. There are many tourists from hell, but none of them can hold a candle to today's subject. A tourist who hit the road to kill other tourists. That's right, this is the strange story of John Martin Scripps, a man who took vacations to kill people. John Martin Scripps was born in 1959 in Letchworth, Hertfordshire, the most
What
UK
the
sounding
hell?
name we've ever heard.
What's wrong with the screen?
He grew up traveling frequently, often with his father, who was a truck driver. When Scripps was 9, his father committed suicide, though, and things understandably started to go downhill from there. Scripps eventually dropped out of school as a teenager and started traveling the world, doing odd jobs here and there to stay afloat financially. He was, in some ways, the original nomadic traveler influencer, except his vacations featured less flowy dresses and photoshopped Instagram pics and more felonies. He was first found guilty of a crime in May of 1974 when he was just 15. Scripps was charged with burglary, but since he was a minor, he was given a conditional discharge. This meant he would only be in prison if he committed another crime in the following 12-month period. Scripps, clearly playing chicken with the justice system, would proceed to commit 3 more thefts in the next 2 years. For the rest of his non-incarcerated life, Scripps lived the life of a vagabond. He roamed around the world and even ended up getting married to a local girl from Cancun when he was just 21 years old. His wife, Maria Pilar Arianos, joined him on the road, and they lived the hashtag van life for 2 years, up until Scripps, unable to stay away from a good crime, was sentenced to 3 years in jail for theft, burglary, and resisting arrest. This broke up the happy wandering couple, as Maria apparently preferred a husband who wasn't in prison. When Scripps was released, he still had his travel bug, in addition to a good old solid knowledge of criminal activities. So, what more logical way to support his wanderlust than trafficking heroin between Asia and Europe? Unfortunately, Scripps had once again conveniently ignored the fact that things like trafficking drugs will get you, that's right, arrested. He was searched in Heathrow Airport and found to be carrying way too much heroin for airport security's liking. After his stash was found, Scripps was thrown in jail in various places around the UK. Scripps then managed to escape twice during home leave, when he got to leave prison, visit home, and was expected to return when his time was up. Who could have seen that coming? His own mother told prison authorities the Home Office have buried their head in the sand over this. They know full well that if they had done what I told them, none of this would have ever happened. I begged them not to let him go. Of course, she did give him £200 to help him escape abroad after his last prison break. She was, after all, still his mother. But when someone's own mother is begging the warden to keep her kid locked up, maybe that's a sign that they really shouldn't be allowed out on a prison field trip. Scripps' escape abroad under the fake name Simon James Davis would prove his mother right, and the entire UK prison system deeply flawed. No one knows what clicked in Scripps' mind to send him on a serial killing spree, but the training he received while locked up definitely didn't help. Of all possible duties and assignments they could have given Scripps, they made him a butcher. That's right, he was put to work under a former butcher turned prison inmate in the kitchen. The next butcher taught him how to dismember and remove the bones from animals, which would turn out to be knowledge Scripps unfortunately put to use in the real world. Scripps committed the first confirmed murder in his old drug running stomping grounds, Singapore. On March 8, 1995, Scripps decided to hang around Singapore Changi Airport. He approached a solo male traveler by the name of Gerard Lowe, a chemical engineer who had just arrived from Johannesburg, South Africa on a business trip. As serial killer true crime series have taught us, but is rarely true in real life. Scripps must have been quite the charming murderer. We don't know how, as at this point we'd like to remind you that Scripps frequently walked around like this. After chatting with Lowe for a time, he somehow convinced the engineer to split a hotel room. Just a quick PSA here from us at the Infographic Show. Please do not book hotel rooms with random strangers that approach you at airports, and seldom as well. The two men booked a room at Riverview Hotel. The next day, on March 9th, Scripps went down to the front desk to request that Lowe's name be taken off the reservation. Why? Scripps said he had kicked Lowe out due to his being a homosexual. The actual reason Scripps requested the name removal was quite different. See, the previous night, Scripps had immobilized Lowe with an electroshock weapon, killed him with hammer strikes to the head, and then proceeded to cut him up in the hotel room bathroom. We told you he'd soon be using those butcher skills. This technically means Scripps and Lowe weren't sharing the room or reservation anymore, as Lowe was in pieces. However, Scripps apparently needed a couple days for disposal, cleanup, and perhaps just to gloat in a room where he had committed a horrific murder, because Scripps didn't check out until 2 days later on March 11th. On March 13th, some very unlucky passerby walking close to the Clifford Pier found a plastic bag. The nauseating sight that awaited them when they opened the bag was a pair of human legs cut off at the knees. Authorities would also eventually find a pair of thighs and a torso, though never the rest of the victim. Since Lowe's wife filed a missing persons report for him after not
After saving with customized car insurance from Liberty Mutual, I customized everything. Marco's backpack.
hearing from her husband for a few days and not seeing him return on his scheduled flight back, they connected the dots and the body to Gerard Lowe. Scripps would go on to make this strange way of approaching and killing victims his own personal MO. Not even a week would pass until his next murder. Scripps' next stop was in Thailand. Though most people go for the food, the beaches, and the full moon parties, Scripps decided to partake in a little recreational homicide instead. This time, he didn't even wait to get to the airport. He met Sheila Mae Demude and her son, Darren John Demude, Canadian citizens, on the plane to Phuket. He befriended them during the flight, and when he found out that they were staying at Nilly's Marina Inn on Patong Beach, surprise, he was going to the same hotel, staying in the room next to theirs, in fact. On March 16th, the Demudes woke up in this beachfront paradise, ate an early breakfast, and were never seen again. At around 11 a.m. the same day, Scripps went down to the reception to ask to be switched to the Demudes' room, as they had left unexpectedly, and he would take care of their bill. Inexplicably, the receptionist made this switch without checking if the Demudes were in fact still there, or even alive. True to form, Scripps hung around the hotel in Thailand for a few days, finally departing on March 19th. Most criminals immediately flee the scene of a murder, but not Scripps. He apparently needed some downtime right after killing people. Right after he left, authorities found the skulls of the Demudes in an old tin mine and various body parts belonging to Sheila Demude a few days later on the Bon Nai Trang Road, 6 miles away. Those 3 murders are Scripps' confirmed kills, the ones he was eventually charged with in the Singapore courts. However, police suspect that those are far from his only murders. London-based financial advisor Timothy McDowell was on vacation on an island off Belize in the early months of 1995 when he made the mistake of teaming up with a new travel buddy to take scuba diving lessons. We'll let you guess who his new friend was. Though McDowell was, surprise, surprise, never heard from again, his bank account was suspiciously active, specifically with a £21,000 transfer to an account in San Francisco held by Scripps. McDowell's body parts weren't found for months, and by that time Scripps was already in Changi prison for his other murders. He refused to cooperate with Scotland Yard, so detectives never got to the bottom of McDowell's murder. Accountant William Shackle also had the unfortunate luck to run into Scripps while on vacation in Cancun, Mexico. Once again, Scripps was never officially found guilty for his murder, but he was in Cancun at the time, and Shackle disappeared right after 4,000 pounds of his traveler's checks were cashed. Scripps also used Gerard Lowe's credit card to withdraw large sums of money, so the motives for the homicide seemed at least partly financial. Eventually, as one might expect after he committed multiple homicides and then hung around his victims' hotel rooms for days, using their credit cards and transferring money from their account, Scripps was caught. Police apprehended him on March 19, 1995, as he arrived at Changi Airport in Singapore. Helpfully for the local police, Scripps was carrying an incredible amount of evidence against him. His possessions included 2 British passports issued to Simon Davis, his alias, and perhaps more damningly, Sheila Demude's and Gerard Lowe's credit cards, and the 2 Canadian passports of Sheila and Darren Demude, and Lowe's South African passport. To further cement the case against him, Scripps was also carrying his murder weapons, a 3.3-pound hammer, a Z-Force 3 electroshock weapon to immobilize his victims, a can of mace, handcuffs, thumb cuffs, foldable knives, and Swiss Army knives. Meanwhile, last time you went through TSA, they took away your moisturizer and nail clipper. After Scripps' arrest, the district court decided that there was more than enough evidence to proceed with a murder trial, In addition to Scripps having conveniently carried all the evidence against him on his person, 39 witnesses also provided testimony placing him with Gerard Lowe. It may be obvious at this point, but Scripps had very little wiggle room to escape a conviction. He tried to present a self-defense case, stating that Lowe had made homosexual advances toward him in the hotel bed, and when Scripps declined them, Lowe had initially thrown the hammer at him. Afterwards, Scripps retaliated by striking a blow to Lowe. He further stated, "I may have worked in the butchery, but cutting up a human body is another thing." To no one's surprise, that statement about cutting up humans feeling different than cutting up meat didn't really convince the jury of his innocence, as Scripps was clearly hoping it would. The Singapore court sentenced him to death by hanging, and though Scripps' mother protested the sentence, no other activists or groups jumped in to defend him. And the British government, clearly not wanting to be associated with Scripps, declined to make a plea for clemency. On April 19, 1996, just over a year after his traveling killing spree, John Martin Scripps was hanged in Singapore's Changi prison. This made Scripps the first Briton to be executed in Singapore since its 1959 independence from colonial rule. Though Scripps was executed for Lowe's murder, the police investigating the Mutes homicides closed the file on the day of his execution, deciding the case was effectively finished. To this day, authorities around the world, and even Scripps' ex-wife Maria, remain unsure as to just how many travelers may have fallen victim to the serial killer's predations. After learning the story of the tourist from hell serial killer, hopefully you don't feel as annoyed at your hostile bunkmate snoring loudly 3 feet away from you. Remember, there are much worse tourists out there. What's the worst thing you've encountered on your travel?
Alright guys, I'll see you in my this video, so I see you then.